On this episode of the REI Marketing Weekly, I am super excited to bring you my good friend Andrew Newlon out of Springfield, Missouri. He also operates in Lubbock, Texas as well. So we're going to be talking about that on the podcast here, but he does have a partner that operates that market as well. So they're pretty far apart, even though they're both sort of Midwest markets. However, one of the main things that we do talk about is how they operate their marketing in two completely different markets and they run them as separate businesses in addition to that, which is probably the biggest thing that we talk about here. However, how they treat it. Now, the important thing to understand that we go over is that the markets that they operate in are both extremely similar markets. It's not like trying to run a market in Indianapolis, Indiana, and then also in San Diego, California. They're two completely different markets. They did that on purpose, and there's a story behind that. However, we dig deep in that. In case you are interested in opening up a second market and where to go and that sort of thing, this is going to be giving you a lot of really good insight on the marketing of how to do that. Andrew is a very, very detail-oriented person. He's very focused on KPIs and metrics and that sort of thing, which makes him really, really unbeatable when it comes to his marketing. And it's kind of funny enough, we've had him on the REI Marketing Weekly before, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And on that episode, we specifically talked about how he almost put himself out of business by marketing too much. He tried too many different things. They flooded with leads. They didn't have the sales staff to support it. And it almost put them out of business because they weren't closing deals. They were getting a crazy amount of leads, spending a lot of money on marketing, and it just wasn't happening for them. So you can actually outmarket yourself apparently in business. And we talked about that on that previous episode. However, now he has it completely dialed in, locked in over the course of the last 4 years. He's been able to dial that in completely with the KPIs that he tracks. So a lot of what we talk about also is the type of KPIs you should be tracking in your real estate investing business, whether you're a wholesaler, fix and flipper, specifically on the marketing side. So generating motivated seller leads is one thing, but as you track it and make sure that you are consistently marketing to the right channels, getting the right leads in and closing the right deals, that's the most important thing, and that's what we talk about. So I'm really excited to bring you my good friend, Andrew Newlon. If you haven't already, make sure you have followed him on social media. We do have the honor of producing his content and putting that stuff out. He does a lot of really cool walkthrough videos and is really good at articulating what he's walking through, and he's just a genuine, down-to-earth human being. You're going to enjoy this episode. Make sure you take some notes, and let's go ahead and hop into it. All right, welcome back to the REI Marketing Weekly. Your host, Josh Culler here, and today I've got my good friend out of the Ozarks house buyer, Andrew Newlon. Andrew, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. So we're going to be talking about quite a few things today. I'm really excited about the primary topic. So when we were chit-chatting about what to talk about before we started recording, you brought up like a really good point about like a great principle of how marketing works on almost everything that you do. So you had talked about in marketing, especially with the way that you guys have looked at it, you could spend money or you could spend time on marketing. And sometimes you could do a little bit of both, but mostly it's going to lean really hard one way or the other. And you had mentioned specifically for your business that the thing that makes the most sense is spending the money. And there's probably some good reasons behind it. And one of the things that, obviously you had talked to me about is, so, 3 of your biggest lead generation sources is direct mail still, which is one thing that we definitely are going to talk about today, and TV ads and PPC. Those are all things that you spend money to get the results as opposed to just your time. Where time, guys, is going to be like driving for dollars, cold calling, text blasting. It all takes time to do those things. And the truth is that you brought up a really, really good truth of marketing is that normally you're either going to spend money, you're going to spend time to do your marketing, whatever type of channel it's going to be. So Andrew, let's dive right in. Like, what's the mindset behind why you chose to go the direction you did in a world where everybody's cold calling, everybody's text blasting? It seemingly seems like people have peeled back on direct mail because maybe it's not performing as well. And some people are doing TV, some people aren't. Like, for you to stay focused in your marketing in the business, what have you been thinking about?
I think it's important to know what your company goals are. So if you're a solopreneur or one man, one woman show, in reference to what you're talking about, like anytime someone asks me, like, how do you find off market properties? And it's on a spectrum. You're either going to spend a lot of time and energy, meaning you're going to pick up the phone and call a bunch of people yourself, or you're going to drive for dollars, or you're going to build relationships and get on, Zillow and Facebook and find houses. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, but it's next to free. Or you can spend the money instead of marketing budget, and the leads come in 24/7, whether you're in the office working hard or on the beach on vacation. And so knowing what you can afford in the direction of your company. So for us, our company, like we're scaling a company. We have a sales team, we have people that answer phones, we have people go out and look at the houses, we have people go sell our houses, we have project managers that manage our projects. And so I knew I didn't want to be in a position where the company was dependent on the time and energy I'm putting into, the prospecting
Sure.
or spending time and energy. So the thought process between that was I can scale it. It's now mathematical equation. I know exactly, if I spend this much money on AdWords, I will get this much leads and this much deals, and I can
Mhm.
scale it to a point, diminishing returns. Same thing with direct mail, same thing with TV ads. Whereas putting the time in, I can spend a lot of time, or my team can spend a lot of time on calling people this week. But if any of us take a vacation next week, then
Yeah.
shut off the
Yeah.
spigot. So we've got our whole entire marketing budget set in automation. So we
Yeah.
know what we're spending every single month. We know exactly how many leads are going to come in. And it's like clockwork. Now we test things and we will test that budget up or down depending on where we're at. But it's predictable, it's consistent, and it doesn't depend on me.
Yeah. So one of the things that you skimmed over that I have learned about you that's a little unassuming is how dialed in your KPIs are. And I think from knowing you as long as I have that that's been through some battle scars as well. Like you've kind of, been there, done that, failed at it, and now you've learned from those lessons and that sort of thing. Like, first of all, what are the biggest numbers that you're tracking KPI wise within your marketing? Like, it's probably subjective depending on the channel that you're doing, but what are the biggest things you're focusing as, especially as the CEO, not just like as your marketing, but as CEO dashboard, what are you looking at?
For CEO, ROI is number one, right? And
Yeah.
and there's an argument there. A good friend of both of ours, Darren, has a really good point where your ROI can go lower, but if it nets you more, then really who cares about ROI? But ROI is it's just a health indicator, right? Are
Yeah.
we spending the money in the right direction? So that's my number one thing I look at. And then as far as our marketing dashboard, we keep track of cost per lead and then cost per conversion. So if our average is X amount, but our cost per conversion is right close to it, then that means we're not making any money on the marketing we're spending. The number of leads and our lead conversion. So the leads
Mm.
that come in and how many of those get set appointments. And we put that on a marketing standpoint because that tells us the quality of the leads. Like our lead managers are great at setting appointments, but they can't set appointments and we're not driving the right leads. We got to refigure
Yeah.
our our strategy, I guess. So
Yes.
ROI, number of leads, lead to appointment conversion, cost per lead, cost per conversion. Um, those are our biggest ones. I mean,
Mm.
we go back and forth. We have dozens of KPIs that we review once a month. We sit down and
Yeah.
look over them. But those are the ones we keep a pretty close eye on.
Yeah, for sure.
The manager is responsible for X amount of leads a week. Like
Mm.
that's her critical number. Like, hey, I will drive this X amount of marketing leads this week. And then if that's not working, then we'll go deeper into
Yeah.
more KPIs where the holes at.
Okay, I gotcha. And I think that's something that people will definitely need to delve into because there's so many metrics that you can track in marketing that really just needs to be very tailored to your business. So I do encourage those who are listening that you really, take some initiative and really nail down what your KPIs are within your marketing. It's going to be different for everybody. So, obviously there's other businesses you can emulate and that sort of thing, but make sure it's very tailored to what you're doing, obviously. So, a little bit of a pivot that I want to take, Andrew, is going back into talking about direct mail. It seems that, we're recording this in late May of 2024, that, from what I've heard of over the last 2 to 3 quarters, that everybody that was doing direct mail has not necessarily maybe pulled back completely, but they're keep saying like, "Oh, it's kind of dead." I've had a couple people on the podcast that have said that direct mail is dead for them. Um, you are personally one of the most consistent people I've ever met, so maybe that has something to do with it. But in the world of direct mail, obviously, it's not something that really changes. You're not like really maybe you try a different tactic, maybe you put a picture of your family on there or a different call to action, stuff like that. But ultimately it's a piece of paper that like ends up in somebody's mailbox telling them you want to buy their house, that sort of thing. So it doesn't change a whole lot, but obviously, the way that people respond to it is slightly different. So I'm curious, like what are some things that you've done over the past let's just call it 6 months to a year, that has changed with direct mail that maybe you've adapted to and like been able to still press on and find success in it?
Yeah. The biggest thing is consistency. Like just like you said, get something in their mailbox every frequency. So whether it's every month, every other month, or every 6 weeks, whatever the case may be. So consistency is number one. The data you're getting is close second. Make sure you're mailing to the
Yeah.
right people. You don't be spending money on people that don't want to hear your message or you don't
Yeah.
bring them any value. There was 2 times in the last several years that I saw everyone shut off direct mail.
Yeah.
As soon as COVID hit, everyone thought the market was going to crash. And so like, why spend all this money? Let's wait. And then when the interest rates going up and people start or tighten up their budget, because they didn't anticipate buying as many houses. And I think a lot of people got caught when the tide went out with their pants down, like, hey,
Yeah.
we're not doing as good as we thought we were, just this, the winds or behind us carrying us forward. Unfortunately, you can turn on and off PPC. Even then, you need some ramp up period. You can definitely turn on and off TV ads. Like the day you turn on TV ads, you're getting phone calls.
Yeah.
You can turn on and off cold callers. There's enough third party companies out there. You say, hey, I want you to cold call this 5,000 people. They'll call tomorrow and you start getting leads in.
Right.
You cannot just simply turn on direct mail. What happens is if we put ourselves in the seller's shoes and they're getting, say, 10 mail pieces in a small area like mine, that's fine. But you're out in San Diego, you're probably getting 100 a month, right?
Mhm.
And so this month you get something from Andrew, but then Josh, Sal, and Sue. And the next month you get something from Andrew, but Billy, Bob, and Joe. And the third month you get something from Andrew, but Zach, Taylor, and Ashley, right? They don't remember those 9 other names. They remember Andrew every single time.
Like, this guy keeps showing up on my doorstep. Yeah.
He's here. He's real. They wanted like
Yeah.
I have faith. It's all the other people. I have no idea who they are.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I got my family on there or a picture of a dog or my team or if it's pink, blue, or red, or if it's a letter or
Mhm.
a postcard. I mean, just having my name consistently there. So that's number one. And then number two is openness. It's our return address. It's our phone numbers. It's
Mm.
our website. Like we're out there. We're not hiding anything. It
Yeah.
surprised me when people use return address. It goes back to the post office or a
In the
PO
PO
box.
box. Yeah.
There's no website, there's no pictures, there's no names, there's no nothing. And it's like, why? What are you trying to hide from? You want people to know you're established, you're the real deal, you're approachable.
Yeah.
Consistency, openness, the data. Um, I mean, those are probably the biggest things.
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually talking to um yesterday. We had time this recording, it's going to be an episode that's already gone out, but my good friend Andrew Lucas, and he's down in South Carolina, and he runs a very similar business model that you do. And he was talking about how he doesn't, they do direct mail, TV ads, PPC, like that, basically similar things that you guys do. And even though it's a very different market, his messaging is still like, I want to be approachable, but I also want people to be able to find me and my organization and realize that we are real in a world where there's a whole crazy amount of wholesalers out there, just like the example that you gave. And it's important to them on brand to stay consistent with that. They want people to call them and say like, hey, you sent me this mail piece, take me off your list, because then they have an engagement with that person. And if you're hiding behind a PO box or a brand that you're really ashamed of or whatever, and he even used the example of like, we don't cold call or text blast because we don't want to associate negative marketing to our actual organization, and we don't like to use, with cold calling, you have to use like aliases and stuff like that and really hide behind a wall. And it's not on brand with a lot of the way, people run their business. So that's interesting the way that you have that. And I think, so one of the things I'm curious about too is over the past, like however long you've been doing direct mail, has the messaging that you put out there changed? Call to action, the motivation, stuff like that. Is there a sweet spot that you've really found that works really well for you guys?
Some has, like, we don't use the word cash anymore. Cash is overused, and now there's a subconscious bias effect when people hear cash. If you hear low
Yep.
ball, it kind of blends in. We actually even avoid like fair offer, things that other people are using, and we're changing a lot of content, like less about what we do. So I'm not buying houses, more about what you need to do, sell your
Mm.
house.
Okay.
Uh, And then we keep it simple, like very, very simple. Like just read it quickly. If you want to talk to us, call us, and approachable. So the biggest thing we've been doing for the last maybe 2 years is my family pictures, and we update almost quarterly. And so they see the kids grow and they see us, and they kind of almost get to know us. We're going to start challenging that though, because I think maybe some people can or can't relate to me specifically, given a whole list of things, whether it's demographic, economic, location, race, whatever it might be, right there. And so we may change that up a little bit, so making sure that that's not affecting it. Um, we've even gone so far as like taking off, no costs, no commissions. There was actually a big lawsuit that was won
Yeah.
year and a half ago where
Yeah.
they include that language and it is perceived as not true, I guess. And in our situation, it's 100% true. But if you don't offer it every single time, then you get caught up. So
Right.
just
Right.
just simple, like sell on your schedule,
Yeah.
sell completely as is. Move out when you're ready. Call us today for us to come out and look at your house. It's just simple.
Yeah, for sure. Interrupting this podcast episode to tell you guys that this podcast is managed and produced by Culler Media Productions. Yes, shameless plug, that's my company. However, we do this for a lot of other people as well. Most people that we work with are in the real estate investing space. So if you're listening to this podcast specifically, you probably are a real estate investor, given it's called the REI Marketing Weekly. If you're somebody that either wants to start a podcast or you have one going and it's becoming a little bit of a hassle, you're looking to transition to somebody that works a little bit better with a fluid motion in terms of you get the recordings done and then they do everything else. Well, that's what we do. We do fully managed podcasts from start to finish, video, audio, show noting, the graphics, publishing, everything that goes into it. It's a full service business that we run here in a service for you as a real estate investor if you are running a podcast. Additionally, we also do social media and YouTube management as well. So all of that being on the organic side, if you are interested in learning more about working with us and just recording content with guidance and strategy set by myself personally, and then not doing anything else after that, where we're taking care of everything from start to finish, then make sure you go check us out at cullermedia.com, CULLER media.com. Hit us up there and we can learn more about working together, hop on a phone call and see what we could do for you. Now back to the episode. And pivoting that into doing TV advertising, is it very similar messaging that you're utilizing there on from direct mail over to your TV advertisements? Is you're very focused on pointing
Mhm.
out what they want as opposed to what you're trying to pitch to them?
Yeah, I think that's something. So we've launched TV ads twice, and we're out on a pause right now. We're actually regrouping, and we're launching in Lubbock, Texas, here in about 2 weeks, and we're not going to in Springfield for a few more weeks. Like we like to, kind of
Yeah.
step things out. So this will be our third run at it. They've been successful, but not nearly as successful as we wanted. We've learned a lot of lessons. And one of the lessons we talked about last time we paused it was congruency between the marketing messages. And
Okay.
so, yeah, actually, when we do the TV ads, it's very like, I want to buy your house, sell as is, no repairs, no commissions, 2-day, whatever. And it is very salesy. Now it works. It gets people to answer their phone. So we may tailor something like, let's make it look or sound very similar to our postcard.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake we did, it was like you were talking about alias earlier. We actually had a different brand for TV ads than our actual company, not because we were hiding anything, because I say my full name on there and everything. It's me on the commercials,
Yeah.
my Texas on the commercials, is so we can track the data minutely. Like we knew
Okay.
if I shout out, someone lands on our website, fills out our web form, that it came from TV or
Yeah.
did it come from a postcard or an actual website search, which is great. We had really cool looking KPIs. We know without a doubt where they came from. But what we didn't realize is when so our alias is 417 sell now, right? It's a good brand, good URL. If someone Googled 417 sell now, I have personally spent the last 11 years building a really good brand with Google reviews
Yeah.
and business listings and testimonies and videos. And you've helped us tremendously and all these different backlinks and stuff. If you Google Ozarks house buyers, you know without a doubt that we're a real thing. We
It's
got
gonna
Yelp,
pop up and you're gonna see all of that stuff. Yeah.
Better Business Bureau, all these different business listings. I mean, they're all over the place. You Google 417 sell now, we didn't put a lick of attention into it. So you Google and it's just blank. Now you'll see us as Ozarks house buyers and see all my competitors right there with us.
But it automatically throws people off. They're like, what is this?
There's no social credibility.
Yeah.
So we really think there was a big damper on that. And so we asked ourselves, what matters more? Actually, true revenue by having congruent marketing or having the coolest looking KPIs ever.
Mm.
And a buddy of mine told me, goes, does Apple have different names for different marketing channels, or is it just Apple?
Hmm.
Well, we're
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, and they have different products, but everything's under a brand. And I think that like, there's but first of all, it's great that you even tried that in the first place because now you know like this is the way. This is the direction that we need to go into, right? To actually think about it in the best perspective and the best lens that we could look into, which is like you want to build the brand, but then also any marketing channels that are you're pouring money and time into need to go towards that brand that you've put a lot of effort into building, and you truly have put a lot into Ozarks House Buyer. So I think that that's, a really, obviously it's a smart move, and obviously, you can, there's so many different ways that you can track the traffic coming from the TV ads and stuff like that. I'm sure you guys are working on that. But that's super valuable, and I think that a lot of people need to take that. And it is the whole like hiding behind another brand that like people really need to have a conversation about. Because if you've poured a lot of development into your existing brand, then lean on that and leverage it because that does hold a lot of weight. Did you find when like you would get calls from the TV ads from the sub brand that people would come up and be like, like, are you guys anything to do with Ozarks House Buyers or anything like? Did you ever have any questions like people were kind of confused about the branding, or is it just like they got down to business and that was it?
I wasn't running appointments on those, so I that never really got to me. I know there were hand times, or even there's times when I ran appointments, and someone's like, "Well, maybe I should call somebody. You're the person I called because I saw you on TV, but I had this list of postcards, so maybe I should call them." And they would very innocently ask me, like, "Do you think I should call these people?" Start handing me postcards. I'm like, "Well, that's me right there." And so yeah, I guess we've seen some level of that.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't.
yeah, of
And the thing to think about too is like we're in a very small market, uh,
course.
and so we target a large percent, probably a larger percentage of the population than bigger markets do as a percentage, as a
Mm,
ratio. I mean,
okay.
there's only so many absentee owners and so many houses. Period.
Right.
You can't spend much more money. You go somewhere like San Diego, like you can segment down to certain zip codes is really good at. Like we just canvassed the whole county.
Yeah.
Uh, and so the reality is, most people seeing my TV ads are actually getting postcards from me as well.
Hmm.
So why not get an exponential return on that and piggyback
Yeah.
them together? So, because the second time we did this, we had separated. The first time we did it, it was all one brand, but we couldn't track our KPIs. No, we were a different company back then, like you alluded to earlier. Like we weren't tracking KPIs like we should have. We also didn't have the manpower to receive the additional leads. So we cut off pretty quickly. Like we're spending all
Yeah.
this money, but if we're not answering the phones, then why are we doing this?
For sure.
But we did see a lot of that the first time. It's like, hey, keep getting your postcards. And also one day I saw you on TV. So I called you first because you seem to be pretty legit.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. So the last thing I kind of want to go into as we wrap up here, we got just a few more minutes, is you operate in two different markets, both being small markets. So Lubbock, Texas, and then Springfield, Missouri. And they're pretty far apart, but obviously your partner's over in Lubbock. I'm assuming that had something to do with choosing to go to that market. But what's it like marketing in two smaller would you consider both of those tertiary or
Yeah.
okay, so what's it like marketing in two separate markets? Is it very similar systems that like you're running the same channels in both markets at the same time, or is there differences? How do you kind of
Yeah.
differentiate that?
Several years ago, we said let's treat it like one business, just
Okay.
different offices.
Yeah.
And everything we do in one, we do in the other. There may be some very minute nuances that we change, but I mean, it's usually not even on the marketing side. And so we do the same TV ad, we do the exact same mailers, we do the exact same PPC strategies. PP strategy, I guess, could. I mean, we look at the keywords or
Of
they
course.
look at
Sure.
keywords on a,
But you still run PPC for both.
and the budget is very similar. So the good thing and why we've been so successful is Lubbock's got 250,000 people. Not much of a metro. I mean, it gets rural really quickly. And the metro for Springfield is about 240.
Mhm.
Springfield South proper is 170, and then you add all the bigger suburbs, they were about 240. So the size is identical, the median sales price is identical, the demographics is identical. They're both college towns, they're both blue collar, they both are very, very stable. Income's about the same. And so our target audience is identical. I keep using San Diego, I don't know why, but let's say New York. If I try to go do something in New York, it'd be a completely different message, different people, different atmosphere, different strategy, different volume. And it just does. So I think that's why it has worked so well, because they're
Yeah.
identical.
Yeah. So marketing to them is not really much different from each other because of all the similarities.
Yeah. And we track it separately. All the KPIs are
Sure.
separate.
Yeah.
It's actually the one thing in the company that we don't ever blend out all period. Like we'll never look at TV combined between the two markets or
Mhm.
direct mail combined the two markets. Like we really want to know if I'm spending X amount of money in Lubbock that we're getting a good return. We don't want it to be clouded by an exceptionally good return in Springfield.
Yeah.
But they're actually pretty darn close. And um, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's really valuable to know because I know a lot of people that are expanding in other markets. Typically, like the way it works is like if I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, I'm gonna expand out like basically like the circle is in Indianapolis and I'm expanding out this way, eventually ending up in multiple very small towns and then maybe another like tertiary market, that sort of thing, Bloomington, and then you got Lafayette, stuff like that. Like, but you going into a completely different state, pretty far away from each other. That's like making sure that because when you expand out, you're going to hit so many different types of markets. So marketing to them is going to be very different from each other. So if
Yeah.
somebody were to like look to expand into another market, is that the first thing you would look at them and say is like find another market that's similar to what you do or expand out like geographically?
But geographically, I would say geographically, if it literally is like adjoining, right? Like we're
Okay.
expanding geographically every single day. We're adding a new town, new suburbs,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
We got two like whatever smaller than tertiary, you know, quadriterary. I don't know. And we got even smaller further out that we'll add, but it's kind of like you just absorb it, right? That's one
Mm,
thing. So always you always go deeper in your own market. I've learned that over and over and over.
right. Yep.
Two, I would say geographically, what can you absorb
Mm,
closer to you? But yes, absolutely. We have expansion plans and they will be identical markets to us. And it goes beyond marketing. Think about your processes, how you run appointments. So, how we run appointments in Springfield, Missouri, the good old Bible Belt, is definitely not how you run appointments in Miami, Florida. I had a
mhm.
friend that worked out of Tampa years ago. I remember him telling me, he's like, he was a face-to-face salesperson. Like, I want to go to someone's house and sit down at the dinner table and talk to them about how much I can offer. So they get on the phone, like, yeah, we could be there in 4 hours, or we can be there tomorrow. We said over and over and over, these people were calling me back saying, never mind, I took someone else's offer. Well, their
Uh,
culture was okay with accepting offers over the phone. You cannot rarely
yeah.
offers accepted over the phone where we're from. People want to sit down face to face and go, I trust you. You could make offers over the phone, but we're going to squash that immediately. It's easy. And so the processes with sales and marketing and transactions, all of there's big nuances that can impact the way you streamline your business, especially when you're expanding and scaling, right? You want to do the exact same thing in every single market. So each market needs to be pretty similar.
Yeah. Wow, that's super valuable. I've never thought of it that way. And you're absolutely right. I mean, in the way that you market, like I always use a great example. I won't say his name, but a mutual friend of ours. He's out of Pittsburgh, and he was talking to me one time that he was doing TV ads, but he got an actor to do it because he didn't want to be on the ad, and that actor was from Phoenix, Arizona, and was born and bred there, and that sort of thing. And he's like, "Yeah, nothing's working. Like, we're not getting like people call, and they're so like." On guard already, and that's not at all what I've heard about TV ads. And the first thing I thought about was like, dude, you're from Pittsburgh. Like people from Pittsburgh know people from Pittsburgh. Like they know how they act, they know how they talk, how they carry themselves, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of weight that goes into just being that local guy. And I'm like, give it a shot and you be on the ad. Like just suck it up and do it. And the results changed for him, obviously. But that's something that is like, yeah, I mean, staying in your market is good. Finding another similar market is going to be like that bit of information. Like I've never heard anybody like kind of give it that way, but obviously the natural thing when you're expanding is to absorb those markets, like you said. So I like the way you kind of explain that and open it up. Well, man, I think we're out of time. So I appreciate everything that you have given us, man. This has been such a good time. You are honestly one of the smartest business owners I know in the real estate investing space. And I do know, once again, just for the length of time I've known you, and even before this, you have tried and failed at a lot of things, and you take those lessons and actually apply them and analyze what happened, and then re-implement in a different way based off of the KPIs, the data that you look at, and how those things work. And I just, I'm honored to be your friend, and also a client of ours, and we love working with you. You run a great business in Springfield and obviously Lubbock as well. So thank you for sharing everything you have. If somebody did want to connect with you and they were just interested in learn more about what you have going on, or maybe they are in Springfield or Lubbock and they want to network with you and possibly do some deals with you or that sort of thing, what's the best way to connect with you?
I'm on both Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook, just search my name, Andrew Newlon, Newlon, and then Instagram, I think it's my last name _ Andrew. So reach
Got it.
out, the message. Yeah, I love networking, love helping people, like sincerely. So
Mhm. Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. And we'll have those links below for you guys. So if you are interested, make sure you do reach out to Andrew and connect with him and that sort of thing. So thank you so much for your time. I look forward to having you back again soon. This is great.
thanks, man. Appreciate your help over the years too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining in and listening. If you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the show. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do me a huge favor and leave a review. And I would love your honest feedback. That just helps make the podcast even better. And of course, this podcast has been around for a while. We had about 150 episodes in the can before we relaunched. So make sure you go back and check some of those out. A lot of them are very relevant still, even though they came out a couple years ago. So make sure you go check those out. But thank you so much for joining today, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.